but the hour you spend getting ready for bed really matters. Yeah. We're not designed to go from wired consciousness to unconsciousness. Like that is such an abrupt change that we have to have a transition time. Just like when you're warming up from exercise, you don't get out of bed and then go immediately like bench press your heaviest, weight. You do some sort of warm up. So setting up some sort of routine that does not include technology and is relaxing to you is going to be your best bet. And what I do with my clients is I figure out what's like the minimum viable routine that they can do, because most of them have a lot on their plate. And me just saying, go do an hour, all of them laugh at me. They're like, I don't have an hour. I don't have time for that. So it's like, how do we condense their routine into 15, 20 minutes that's going to be really impactful and truly help wind their brain down and their body down to get ready for sleep?
Hey friends, welcome to the Health Simple Show. I'm your host, Kyle Reidhead, and I interview health and wellness experts from around the world to help you live healthy, happy, and stress-free. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions about anything we talk about through this episode, just comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Enjoy the show. Kelly, welcome to the show first of all. Glad we got this set up.
Thank you, Kyle. Happy to be here. Happy to be connected to Wi-Fi in the modern world.
So Kelly is someone that I met in Bali, actually. How? I don't even really know, but I just know when I got to Bali, a bunch of people messaged me, were like, hey, you got to meet Kelly. She's a sleep performance coach. You're a health coach. You guys need to know each other. So a bunch of people kind of linked us up. We went to the avocado factory, of course. And she's doing some really awesome stuff. So I thought, okay, I got to get you on the podcast. Right now, Kelly's in Ubud, which is, I don't know, the middle of the rainforest or jungle in Bali, I guess. And I'm in Canggu, which is on the beaches of Bali. But they're the two, I guess, main entrepreneur co-work spots of Bali and kind of the world. They're one of the more popular ones too. So really cool that we're able to do this. Kelly, let me ask you something first. What brought you to Bali? Why'd you come here?
Yeah, a couple of different things. I'm working as a performance sleep coach, and I'm building my business primarily online. So the goal is to be able to serve clients from all over the world and not be limited to just my own backyard. And part of the reason for that is because I'm such a big traveler and adventurer myself. And so it just fits with my own personal lifestyle. But then also having a reach to be able to help people all over the world, it just leaves a greater impact, and it allows me to really make a bigger difference than I could in my own neighborhood. And I come from a small mountain town area back in Northern California. I'm from the Lake Tahoe Truckee area, and it's a beautiful, amazing spot, but it's also very small too. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily a big city person, at least not for more than a couple of days. I get anxious, I get wound up. And so coming over to Bali was the push that I needed to really build my business online, to also surround myself with like-minded people who are doing similar work. You were a perfect example of that. Thank you. Then also to just put myself in an environment that I know is most conducive to my productivity and my overall wellness, which is kind of a segue into the conversation that we're about to dive into. But it's me knowing myself and recognizing, what environment do I work best in? Where am I healthiest? Where am I making the best food choices? Where am I getting the best sleep? And even though the jungle environment is still relatively new in my life, I spent a couple summers ago in Nicaragua, and that's the closest thing that I've ever done in terms of like the hot, humid, tropical climate. So I wasn't entirely sure if this would be a right fit for me, but so far it has been. I can honestly say I've never eaten so well in my life. and just the people, it's definitely leveling up my happiness here.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, Bali is this community of digital entrepreneurs, a lot of them in the health space actually, or just a lot of people that at least care about their health and care about kind of their mindset and spirituality and yoga and healthy eating, and checks off all the boxes really when it comes to health, but also when it comes to being a digital entrepreneur. So if you want to work online, This place is just, it's amazing for that. The people you meet, the places that you can go to kind of network and learn from other people. It's absolutely phenomenal. So check it out if you haven't. Canggu is where I am, and it's like the hot spot, or Ubud too, I guess. But Ubud is, as you can see in her background, she's got the jungle and everything behind her. It looks really cool. There's some monkeys right over there that she said. You said you had a monkey almost jump on your head?
Yeah, when I parked my scooter, because I've embraced the scooter life here, I was walking and not paying attention. I was on my phone, and a monkey got within like 2 feet of my head. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually let out an audible yelp, a little scream, because it just shocked me so much. And then I just had to laugh. I was like, here I am. I'm wearing this rain poncho. Yeah. I just like rushed here on a scooter to find some Wi-Fi. A monkey almost landed on my head. Like, these are just the obstacles that sometimes we face in life, and how funny are they? You know,
absolutely.
You just have to laugh.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's get into the sleep a little bit, but I want to know, what got you first? What got you so interested in sleep? Were you like the perfect sleeper your whole life? Do you always just, lay down and just fall asleep for 10 hours, no problem, and thought, okay, I got to teach some others how to do this? Or was there some struggles there in the beginning?
I don't know if anybody becomes a coach or a teacher because they've done something perfect their whole life. I think it always comes from struggle and from overcoming adversity in some way, shape, or form. So the short answer is definitely not. I have never been a perfect sleeper. And to this day, I'm still refining my process. But my journey with sleep, it's been an evolution. As a child, I slept fine. As a teenager, I slept relatively fine. But around the end of high school, getting into college, I entered into this phase where it would take me about 2 hours to fall asleep. Okay. And I didn't realize at the time that was insomnia. Mm-hmm. I just thought, I literally thought everyone spent that much time laying in bed waiting to fall asleep. And it wasn't until I started, truth be told, dating certain men who would fall asleep instantly, whereas I would look at them and I'd be like, well, that's so rude. They just fell asleep in like 5 minutes. And now I just get to lay here and think about whatever it was I was thinking about for so long. And so my first realization that my sleep wasn't perfect was just the sheer amount of time that it would take me to fall asleep. And then it just became my norm. So I just kind of worked with it. In my early 20s, like in all of our early 20s, we can kind of get away with cheating our health a little bit more. We're not eating as well. We're drinking more. We're staying out later. We're partying. We're not sleeping as great. And it's not catching up to you quite as fast. Mm-hmm. Something happens around 25, 26. I'm 29 now. And I just feel like you age rapidly from like 25 to 29.
Depends. If you optimize, then maybe not.
Yeah, people are listening. I wasn't absorbing this kind of content. And I don't really think this content was being promoted in such a heavy manner 9-10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was not the way I lived my life. I wasn't eating super clean. I definitely just wasn't taking care of my body as well as I should have. And so I had some eye-opening experiences around 25, 26. But from a sleep standpoint, that was the first issue. And then I kind of just lost touch with the relationship with it, found like a normal groove. It was not even a thought in my mind. Mm-hmm. But then I went through a serious bout of like debilitating insomnia at age 26. Mm. So I graduated college a little bit late. I took a couple years off. And so I graduated college at 26. And right afterward, I went through about 2 months where I wasn't sleeping I wouldn't fall asleep until probably 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And I was getting on average
frustrating process ever when that happens. I lose it.
Completely lose it. Like my whole body broke down. My life started breaking down, and it was going on for about 2 months or so. And I in one day, I ran a red light and I went through a stop sign. Mm. And I didn't even realize it, but there was passengers in my car and they were like, Kelly, what are you doing?
Wow.
And I was like, oh shoot. That's where you start getting into this like danger zone of being sleep deprived, is I'm putting my life in danger. I'm putting other people's lives in danger. And so that was kind of this big awakening moment, but also my relationships were getting frazzled. I was breaking down in tears at work. My cognitive abilities completely plummeted. Mm-hmm. And at the end of that, I ended up going on a trip to Italy and then having really bad jet lag and being on a completely messed up sleep cycle over there. And someone gave me these valerian pills. It was valerian and melatonin. And I started taking them, and it snapped my sleep back into normalcy. But then I kind of found myself hooked on these things, and I thought, oh, I can't actually sleep without them now. And it wasn't until I got back to the States and didn't have those exact Italian pills did I wean myself off. Because once I was back home, the act of going and buying more just seemed like, okay, well, now I'm addicted to something. I don't want to touch that. So I'm just going to stop taking them. So then my sleep became normal again. It was improved. And then about a year and a half later, when I was about 27 and a half, 28 or so, I was in a job that I was really stressed out in. I was overcoming a breakup. I was in another phase of not necessarily taking care of my health as well as I should be. And I was diagnosed, so to speak, with adrenal fatigue, which some doctors don't believe exists. Some do. It's now becoming, I guess, a generally accepted condition. Yeah. So I had adrenal fatigue, and it wasn't that I was going through insomnia, but I was definitely not getting as much deep sleep as I should. And I was just lethargic during the day. I was moody. I was, a lot of anxiety, borderline depressed at times. And so that was a very multifaceted situation. It definitely wasn't just sleep, but that finally was the trigger of me realizing how interconnected sleep is to the rest of our lives, and that it's not just this isolated area of health, but that our nutrition, our stress, our exercise, our everything, our lifestyle plays into how well we're sleeping, and then vice versa. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of it. And then I could talk about how I got into coaching and why now it's a business.
Well, very, very interesting story. And it's great to see someone kind of overcome such a challenge with something like this. And there's already a question here, which we'll get to. We're not going to answer right now, but just talking about always being sleepy, using the depression pills, what can we do to get normal? And a lot of this conversation is going to be practical steps or practical tips, things that Kelly does with her clients to help them fall asleep or sleep better. We're not going to get into kind of the science of why sleep is so important. We did this already on a earlier podcast. I think it was in December, maybe November, with Harpreet, the CEO of Oura Ring. So if you guys want to learn more about kind of the science behind sleep, what's actually happening while we're sleeping, check that podcast out. It was super interesting. But basically, sleep is like the most important thing that you can do for your health. It's like a performance-enhancing drug. Without it, everything starts to break down. Your hormones become unbalanced, and you don't create as many hormones. Your cognitive abilities decline. Absolutely everything starts to break down. So know, number one, that sleep must be a priority. And then what we're going to do here is sort of dive into some, I guess, common issues I think that people would have with sleep, and maybe you can share some of yours, and then we can hopefully get into Kelly has something called the performance sleep method, which I'm excited to learn a lot more about. So we'll dive into that. But why do you feel that sleep is so important? Just curious.
No, I mean, you just touched on so many of the very tangible benefits of sleep. It truly is that performance enhancing drug of helping us with our cognitive performance, our physical performance, and sleep is integral when it comes to muscle recovery, when it comes to tissue regeneration. Our metabolism is controlled in part by our sleep. Our immune system is controlled in part by our sleep. And I actually had a really shoddy immune system in my early 20s and was consistently on amoxicillin. I was in and out of quickie med clinics, those ones where you go in and get a prescription in 10 minutes and walk back out. Yeah. I was there probably every 3 to 4 months with a cold that just wouldn't go away. And my immunity was just crap. But your immune function, your moods, whether you're showing up in the world correctly, your ability to relate to other people. I think one of the concerns when we talk about sleep is that too often it does veer towards this very sciencey medicinal route of dialogue, and that loses people, because at the end of the day, it's cool to know what's happening while we sleep. It's really great to know why sleep is so important. But the very realistic aspects of sleep are, how are we waking up and feeling about ourselves the next day? How are we relating to and feeling about other people in our life? How do we overcome stressors? What happens when anxiety hits? How do we even avoid anxiety and depressive feelings? But sometimes those will happen, and how is sleep a tool to overcome them too?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, sleep is this ability to deal with life at its most fundamental level, in life when it's raw and real, because we're never going to live in a bubble. We're never going to be surrounded by soft, fuzzy blankets for forever.
Well, I completely agree. And you know what? When I finally decided I was going to take my sleep seriously, I never was a bad sleeper, I guess, but I knew that I had room to improve. And when I started to really dive into like optimizing my sleep, I tell you, you can work and you can live and you can feel this whole nother level every day. So I love it. This is why I'm having you on, because sleep is so interesting to me and it's so important. And so I want to learn as much as I can from you. So let me ask you something. With all the clients that you see, or just people that you've spoken to and helped with sleep, what are some of the main issues or things that people are doing that are causing them to have bad quality sleep?
Yeah. And like I said before, it's really multifaceted. So it touches all areas of our life and our health, our lifestyle and our health. I would say some of the biggest areas that the common threads between a lot of my clients, definitely our ability to relate to stress and how we perceive stress and manage it in the moments of when we're experiencing it, whether it's how we relate to an email from our boss that triggers us, or a tough conversation with a partner, or even just our own the internal conversation we have with ourselves and the stress that we instigate within our own lives. And not necessarily having appropriate healthy coping mechanisms to stress. Stress is really good. There's good stress and there's bad stress. I call it productive stress and toxic stress.
Nice.
And productive stress is going to the gym. It's overcoming challenges that advance us personally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And then there's toxic stress, which can sometimes be productive stress that's tipped over. It's just been too much of it, and we haven't come down from it appropriately, or it's allowing too much just negativity to boil up in our lives. And so not coping with stress is definitely one of them. Alongside that is our relationship with technology. The more devices we have, the more tuned in, tapped in, plugged up we are. It's becoming increasingly important for us to set healthy boundaries with technology. And I find that people within our age bracket, we're kind of in this in-between limbo stage where, we got cell phones around 15, 16, 17 years old. And so we remember the days of dial-up. We remember the days of using landlines. We also remember the days of just not even caring what other people were up to. But the people who are younger, or teenagers to mid-20s or so, they don't have those days to even look back on. And so their relationship with technology is pretty screwy. And although that may be the new norm moving forward in our world, we have to know how to manage that and how to remove ourselves from the pressures of the outside world. And then the other thing is finding consistency and routine, and really working with the natural harmony of our body, the natural circadian rhythm that our body wants to live within, that we've evolved over millions of years to have. In fact, I think it was in your interview with Harpreet where he said something along the lines of, it's taken us millions of years to get to this point of our physiology and our biological clock. And within the last 50 to 100 years, we've come along and totally derailed it.
Absolutely.
And who do we think we are that 50 years can change millions of years of evolution? So it's really having that understanding of what our bodies actually want, and then giving it to them.
You know what? I see the technology thing as being one of the biggest issues as well. I mean, every client that I speak to, that I have, not every, but most, they're on their iPad before bed. whether they're in their, bed, just on their phone, texting. And hey, I do the same thing. My biggest problem here in Bali is that my time is on the opposite of all my friends that are back home in Canada. So I wake up at like 2, 3 in the morning for whatever reason. And I just immediately grab my phone and start like scrolling. And I'm like, it's 2 in the morning. What am I doing? I'm right in the middle of my
Kyle,
sleep.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Why am I on my phone? And then I like throw it away. I'm like, oh man. And I keep doing it. I don't know why. It's like a habit, or I'm like half asleep doing it. So, and it's funny because I track my sleep on Oura Ring. So every night you can see that little bit where I'm awake, and I'm like, damn it. So
And are you able to fall back asleep easily after that?
yeah, I can fall back asleep pretty quickly.
Okay.
My phone's on night mode too, so it's not a lot of blue light, but obviously there's still some. But
Well,
either
it goes
way,
beyond the light too. It's the material that you're looking
the
at. It's
stimulation is true.
the stimulation of it. Like, what is that
Okay.
triggering in your brain, whether you're conscious of it or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess if the text or whatever I'm looking at isn't a good thing, then all of a sudden now you start to get stressed out right in the middle of your sleep. So I guess that makes sense.
Or if it is a good thing though, you might get overly excited and then just sit there thinking about something awesome, which not that that's a bad thing to think about something awesome, but there's a time and place for it.
Yeah. Okay. I completely agree. Okay. So maybe your performance sleep method will help me then. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, we know some of the things that we're doing wrong. And the performance sleep method, this is something you created. Is this something you do with your clients, or tell me a little bit about what this is?
Yeah. So I'll back up a little bit. I'm a performance sleep coach. That's the name that I've given myself. There's not like a tribe of us out there. There's no overhanging authority of performance sleep coaches specifically.
Yeah.
I'm a certified sleep science coach. And as I was working with a lot of different people and having a holistic health coaching background, I really thought about what is sleep? And that ties back to your comment about it being a performance enhancing drug, so to speak.
Yeah.
And who really is going to step up to the plate when it comes to optimizing their sleep. Not saying that not everyone probably has room for improvement with sleep. And if you asked anybody on the street, like, hey, would you like to improve your sleep? Most everyone's going to say yes. Yeah. But when it comes down to actually doing the things necessary to take our sleep from crappy to good, or from good to great, or from great to totally optimized and performance ready, you're looking at people who are really ready to make change, or who have something going on in their life where optimizing it means a big difference to them. Mm-hmm. And so when I looked at like, who are these quote unquote high performers, to me, it's athletes, it's entrepreneurs, it's just like generally go-getters, or people who are very much taking care of their health, and they're looking at their nutrition, they're looking at their exercise, and sleep is kind of that missing component. Yeah. Because where I'm going to be coming in their lives is I'll also be talking about nutrition and exercise. And so if those are foreign concepts to them, then my method may be overwhelming or too advanced or have too many aspects to it. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my 7-step performance sleep method, the first step is kind of this overarching, I guess, umbrella. And that is first knowing yourself and really tapping into who you are and what your body needs. And there's a lot of really great tools out there for us to help us dive in. Because when I look at you, I don't really know much about you aside from the fact that you're a health coach, you live healthy, you're a male, late 20s, early 30s. I'm not totally sure. You're from Canada, but that doesn't tell me enough to give you recommendations of how you should be sleeping. Because at the end of the day, just like nutrition, just like exercise, sleep is somewhat bio-individual. So what works for you may not work for me. And some of that stems from our actual physiology. And some of that stems from our lifestyle too, and the way that we've set up our time. And so when I look at athletes and I look at entrepreneurs and whatnot, they all have different schedules. They all have different demands in life. And so it's my goal to understand them and help them understand themselves, so that sleep becomes an effortless component in their lives and not this thing that like has to get scheduled all the time and it becomes another stress. Like, it just needs to fit in seamlessly. Mm-hmm. So part of my efforts of helping people know themselves is understanding what their Ayurvedic dosha type is, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you have looked much into Ayurveda or had anyone on your show.
No, I have not.
Ayurvedic. So I'm not an Ayurvedic practitioner, but I've studied it enough to understand that the 3 different doshas and what combination of them we are helps us understand where our imbalances are, where our strengths are, and generally what lifestyle practices are going to bring us into balance and harmony.
Okay.
And so if we're talking to someone who has a sleep disorder or is just looking to optimize, understanding what the most balanced life for them looks like is a really great place to start.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, I like to know what their body chronotype is, which stems back to Dr. Michael Bruce's book, The Power of One, or I think it's The Power of One. And it's all about knowing when to fall asleep based on your internal chronotype.
Okay.
And there's 4 different.
Yeah, the bear, the tiger. Okay, I've heard this. Yeah.
The bear, the tiger, the dolphin, and the wolf.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I have people take that quiz. And no one of these things is like the end all be all or an exact science, but it just helps sell and paint a picture of someone. And it's really cool when people take these quizzes, whether it's an Ayurvedic dosha quiz or their chronotype quiz, and they get the results and they're like, oh my God, that's me. Like everything makes sense now. And it's just this big light bulb moment where you're like, cool, like you're not this sleepless freak. Like you actually, it all makes sense. And I started understanding myself better once I started taking all these assessments and going down a lot of different modalities, from Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine to even exploring different areas of Western medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I also ask questions like, when was the time that you were sleeping best in life? Like, what did that feel like? What did that look like? What environment do you actually like sleeping in? What position do you actually like sleeping in? Do you actually like sleeping with a partner? And because sleep a lot of times is done on autopilot. We've never been taught how to sleep aside from when we were just born and our moms were trying to get us on a somewhat normal sleeping schedule just so they wouldn't lose their sanity. And that's like the last time in our lives that anyone took notice or care of our sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so asking these questions, it just starts getting the process going of someone realizing what's going to work best for them. And I'm sure you've noticed this as a health coach too, but whenever someone's going to make meaningful changes, a lot of times it's the answers that they find within themselves.
Absolutely.
It's not me forcing a plan on you and then you trying to just check boxes and do it. To me, that's not a sustainable strategy.
Yeah.
So I've you finding your inner wisdom, and I've got tools to help you do that.
Yeah.
And sleep is going to evolve in our lives. We become worse sleepers the older we get, especially women. The closer women get to menopause, the harder it is for them to sleep. And so if my fundamental number 1 principle is knowing yourself, then you can always come back to that. Mm-hmm. And then it's the guiding light to the other 6. Which I can go into.
I want you to go into. First of all, I absolutely love that. I think that when it comes to health, when it comes to anything, I think people always want I want this exact tip. This is what I need to do. And they always forget to go back to just like, who are you and where am I now? Where do I want to be? And just kind of figure themselves out. And so I love that advice. I think that's so important, not just for sleep, but for everything, for nutrition, for whatever your goals are with health. Finding out who you are and what you actually want is so, so important. So thank you. And now I want to hear the other 6.
Yeah. And just on that, I mean, that's what changed my health, is when I started having a genuine curiosity about what was going on in my body and started looking at within to find some answers. And then knowing when to go find experts, knowing when to go find help or coaches to help implement changes. Mm-hmm. But I think we're always looking for like the next blog post, the next, quick hack. And if it's not something that's going to work with your body, it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to help. It can sometimes even hurt, if we're following the latest fad diet, fad exercise trend, and it's not right for you. So anyhow, with sleep, I think it's very critical. So the other 6, and I'm not going to, they're all equally important, but I'm going to give them in order of lowest hanging fruit and how difficult it is to actually implement the changes. Some of these are very passive and some of these take longer behavioral change. And the first one is, I guess, step number 2 is your bedroom environment and the environment in which you're sleeping in. This is what's being promoted by so many different people out there is, you want to sleep in a cool environment. You want it to be pitch black. You want to reduce EMF exposure in your room. So not sleeping with technology devices, especially ones that are plugged in with Wi-Fi. You make sure your bed's comfortable, make sure your pillows are correct, so you're sleeping in the right linens, etc. A lot of those changes, if it's not optimized right now, you just make a purchase, you switch it out, and you're good to go, and it just works passively on your behalf. So when people are just looking for like the quick fix, really like buying a product and just starting to use it is going to be one of your fastest ways of changing. That said, I don't know if you're going to notice the most profound shifts in your sleep just by merely changing your bedroom environment. Although lighting is big in that. And I think if you're sitting in your bed and there's big overhead lights that are beaming down on you and you're on your laptop, late at night, that's going to definitely get in the way of you sleeping. Yeah. So part of my services is that I help people change their rooms from bedrooms to what I call sleep sanctuaries.
Ooh,
and
I like that.
To me, the question that people need to ask themselves is when you walk into your bedroom, does it reflect the most calm and peaceful version of yourself? Or when you walk in, are there piles of clothes? Is there a bunch of clutter? Are the lights super bright and obnoxious? Do you have crazy artwork on the walls that are stimulating your brain? Like, do you feel good when you walk into your room? Or do you feel like it's time to be productive when you walk into your room? That's not the right feeling. That should be your office.
So do you have your clients like send you a video or a picture of their room so you can see it, and then you like basically go in and just redecorate it all?
Kind of. And it's funny because
That's awesome.
my mom is really into interior design. So I spent my entire adolescence at Home Depots on the weekend and like renovating homes and shopping at Pottery Barn. and even though that's not my passion, I've extracted a lot of that from her. And I do find I enjoy it doing it with others. So we'll do like a FaceTime and I'll have them literally walk me through their room. And I like to kind of take them by surprise and do it when they're not expecting, so that their room is, at their most like
not clean,
primal default mode. Exactly. And it'll be some changes like, stop using the overhead light. You need to get table lamps, don't get super bright bulbs, get amber bulbs if you can. Tell me what's going on with your bedding, if it's cluttered, etc. So I'll make some shifts with that.
Cool. Super
depending on their
interesting.
budget too. Some, there's low budget, and then you can definitely take it as far as you want.
Yeah. So here's a question that I get quite often, and I'm wondering how you will deal with this. If you're traveling, let's say it's from work and maybe you got to travel for conferences, or you're traveling like we are, where we're going across the world and living in random villas and random bedrooms. You're in Ubud all of a sudden for a week. Do you have anything specific that you do for a brand new bedroom in a hotel or anything? Do you have a set protocol that you'll do, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
That's a really great question. So I've now started selecting my Airbnbs based on the bedroom photos. I haven't gone as far as to like ask questions and interrogate the host ahead of time and like really get the skivvy on what's going on. And the reason for that is I actually stayed at an Airbnb for a month in Southern California back in for all of November. And when I got down there, my sleep completely went haywire. I was not sleeping well. And I had to ask myself, I'm like, what's going on? My routines are all the same. Like everything's great. And I realized that the bedding that I was sleeping in was completely polyester. It wasn't breathable. The sheers, the curtains had light coming through them from the balcony. So I was constantly being penetrated by light unless I slept with an eye mask. There was an Alexa, a Google Home, a TV, an electronic alarm clock. And this room was super small too. And I was just like being blasted with tech devices. So I unplugged everything, and then it had one of those little, what is it called? The like curtains that hang around your bed
to block the bugs.
Yeah, but it was more decorative. And I found myself, I like move around a lot when I'm sleeping, and I would find myself twisted up in it in the morning or like at random times during the night. And that was my big aha moment of, wow, people decorate their rooms based on what they think is pretty, but not necessarily what's going to be functional for sleep. And since sleep is the primary activity that we want to do in our bedrooms, then that should be the lens that we're looking at it through. Yeah. And so sorry, to answer your question, yes. Now what I do is I look for rooms that look like they're going to be calming, that are going to be comfortable, not a lot of decor, not a lot of crazy features in it. Yeah. Definitely table lamps as the option for reading. There needs to be an air conditioning unit because we're here in Bali. Ideally blackout curtains if that's an option. One
of the questions here from someone is light color or dark color for more calming?
Definitely light color.
Light color? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If you start thinking about like what do spas typically do? Granted, spas can be very dim, which might seem like they're dark, but their walls are never black. They're never dark blue typically. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of beiges, earth tones kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Earth is very important with all of it.
And you know what? The eye mask and the earplugs have been great for me when traveling, especially like on a plane, of course, but even just when I'm in different, because sometimes it can be tough to control your environment of the room you're in. So throw on a mask, earplugs, and it helps quite a bit.
And one of the things too, because we're both big time travelers, you can't always control the environment that you're going to sleep in. On my way over here, I slept in one of those little pod rooms at the Beijing airport, and that I can't do anything about that. And there was all these people, and I could hear the terminal and whatnot. So having your almost sleep toolbox that you can have with you no matter what will help you have this like level of comfort and adaptability in life. So I think ear mask is huge, eye mask, earplugs, essential oils. If you have the ability to travel with your own pillow that you enjoy, because right now I'm sleeping with a pillow that's too big for me and it's hurting my neck and I'm not as comfortable. If you can bring your own, awesome. If you like sleeping with white noise, having apps for that. Yeah. So there's ways to set yourself up for success in changing environments.
What essential oils do you recommend to sleep better?
Yeah, whatever's calming to you. So essential oils are somewhat individual as well because they stimulate our limbic brain, and our limbic brain is connected to memories and emotions. So generally speaking, most people find lavender very calming. Other people don't. So it's kind of like smelling around and seeing what's good for you. The ones you generally like, herbs, more earthy scents, those are going to be best. You want to stay away from citrus and minty scents. Like cedarwood, lavender. I'm blanking on some other ones. Yeah, but you can smell it before bed. I have a blend that I actually put on the bottom of my feet before I sleep. Our feet have, I forget how many nerve endings, but something like 7,000 nerve endings or something on the bottom of each. Yeah. But yeah. And I've got a blend from doTERRA essential oil that's called the Serenity Blend. And I know it's lavender and, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it. Vetiver maybe? I'm not quite sure. I can look that up and tell you afterward. But I put it on the bottom of my big toe and like the middle part of my foot. And I swear I can conk out in like 5 minutes with that now.
Oh, that's awesome. And there's a nice practical hack, I guess, for the listeners too. So always love those. So, okay, I don't want to go too long here. Not that we're anywhere close to the ending yet, but for the last, what do we have? 4 left? No, 5 left.
I'll go faster for these. So my third step is routines, rituals, and timing. So looking at both our evening routines as well as our morning routines, and morning routines have been popular for a while now, but the hour you spend getting ready for bed really matters. Yeah. We're not designed to go from wired consciousness to unconsciousness. Like that is such an abrupt change that we have to have a transition time, just like when you're warming up from exercise. You don't get out of bed and then go immediately like bench press your heaviest, weight. you do some sort of warm up. So setting up some sort of routine that does not include technology and is relaxing to you is going to be your best bet. And what I do with my clients is I figure out what's like the minimum viable routine that they can do, because most of them have a lot on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
And me just saying, go do an hour, all of them laugh at me. They're like, I don't have an hour. I don't have time for that. So it's like, how do we condense their routine into 15, 20 minutes that's going to be really impactful and truly help wind their brain down and their body down and get ready for sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then just having consistent rituals. So our body anticipates routine. It likes routine. You know, I was just looking through the circadian code, and he talks about the timing of your meals, your exercise, and your sleep, and how your body needs to become used to you doing the same every single day in order to be.
You're reading that book right now?
Yeah, I am.
Nice. I love that book.
And then the fourth one is exercise. We need to make sure that we're moving our body every single day in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just going for really long walks and getting your 10,000 plus steps at the very minimum, or ideally you're getting in 30 to 45 minutes of actual exercise, whether it's strength training, HIIT, something that's going to elevate your heart rate.
Yeah. Well, you gotta do enough with your body throughout the day to make it want to go back to sleep, right? If you just sat around all day, well, your body doesn't need to recover because you didn't do anything. So, exercise is so important. And I think for people that don't exercise often, as soon as you start to just get some strenuous activity in, you'll just get tired and you'll be forced to go to bed because you're so tired if you've worked hard during the day. If you work I remember when I used to be a carpenter, so I built houses. And so I was working, hard work all day out in the sun. So, I mean, my sleep was amazing. As soon as I hit a pillow, I just fall asleep because, you use your body so much. So if you're someone who sits all day, well, that makes sense that could be a big issue of why you're not able to fall asleep.
Yeah. And that's kind of phase one of looking at it for people who really need to be motivated to exercise more and know that it's going to help them sleep better.
Yeah.
For a lot of my clients, they've got really intense training schedules because they're training for big athletic goals.
Yeah.
Recently I was emailing with a gentleman who's climbing Everest in May. So he's training every single day. I work with powerlifters. I work with Spartan race athletes, obstacle course race athletes, because that's what I do when I'm back home at times. And so convincing people to exercise is not the problem for a lot of my clients, but it's helping them optimize when are they doing it, the intensity, the frequency, how much time are they giving themselves to wind down? Because a lot of times they're not recovering enough from exercising and they're going into overtraining mode. And really the timing of exercise matters a lot for our sleep. So not doing it too late in the day because our body temp raises and we need our internal core body temp to be cooler in order to enter into deep sleep.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So then the next one is nutrition and gut health. And this one is a little interesting because it's not so obvious that what we're eating and the state of our gut, how that influences our sleep, but more research is coming out about this now. And it's very cyclical in nature. And sleep has a bi-directional relationship with all of these topics that we're talking about. But I think with nutrition, it's really obvious where if you are sleeping better, you are making better food choices, you're not overeating, you are keeping your body in a state of homeostasis with food. On the flip side, if you are sleep deprived, if you are lethargic during the day, your body is going to crave some type of energy source, which means it's going to start asking for sugary foods, starchy foods, high carbohydrate type meals. And it's going to cause you to probably overeat the hormones that regulate your satiety and your hunger, both ghrelin and leptin. Those are going to be out of sync and you are going to be hungrier. And then you're also not going to know when you're full as fast as you probably should. And so that's when you start getting into conversations about obesity and high blood pressure, high cholesterol.
A recipe for disaster when those hormones aren't balanced.
Exactly. And then for gut health, what's really interesting is, all our body works in a circadian rhythm, and the master rhythm comes from our brain, but our organs also have their own circadian rhythms, and our gut has one as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the bacteria in our gut, they operate on their own clock. And if our gut is imbalanced, if there's a dysbiosis, if you have leaky gut, if you have inflammation in your gut, that rhythm is going to be off kilter,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to influence your circadian rhythm as well.
Wow.
And then another interesting fact is that it's like 80% or so, 80 to 90% of our serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone, is created in our gut. And then serotonin is then synthesized into melatonin.
Mm.
And so if our gut is not in a healthy spot, then we're not producing the correct amount of serotonin, which means that we're ultimately not producing the right amount of melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone of darkness, which regulates our sleep.
The body is so fascinating how just interconnected it is between all the different systems.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So interesting.
Yeah. And so if people are experiencing things like IBS, bloating, brain fog, midday lethargy, if they're tired after eating, chances are there's something going on in their gut. Also anxiety and depression too, more of those neurological mood disorders,
Mm-hmm.
all they're finding in so many ways are stemming from the gut. And instead of slapping medication onto it and masking the problem, if we can get to the root of it and help heal someone's gut, they're going to notice their sleep improve. They're going to notice their anxiety improve, and all of that. And part of the way we do that is through nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have certain like gut healthy smoothie recipes and different ingredients, the good ingredients, the bad ingredients, what you should look for, what you should stay away from, that my clients can implement.
Yeah. I think what we're learning here from Kelly is that if someone's, if you're trying to improve your sleep and you've, I don't know, read a blog or something on doing this one thing that's going to change your sleep, that's never going to work. It needs to be this holistic approach. I mean, we're 6 through right now, and there's so many different things that affect each other and all rely on each other. So it is this it's a puzzle to figure out, how to improve your sleep and how to improve your health. So, I mean, hopefully from this, we're going to have a lot of practical tips that you guys can take home. I know I've got a ton already, but understanding that there is a lot to this, and sometimes you may need to hire a coach to help you. Sometimes you can try it yourself, but it's never going to just be this one pill that's going to fix everything. It's likely going to be kind of a broader, more approach to it all, because there's so many things that play a role here. Sort of interrupts you. What is the final?
Oh, we actually have 2 more.
We have 2 more? Is it okay? We're on 5?
Yeah. But you just brought up a great point. I mean, we're always looking for a quick fix, and there's definitely things here that if you make the change, you'll notice improvements.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're looking to truly optimize and take it performance ready, then those are people who are looking at all areas of their health and their lifestyle and are ready to take on this much feedback. But not everyone needs so much help in all these areas too. So the way I do my intake process is there's kind of a sliding scale of, from 0 to 10, where are they in how much out of balance are they within each of these 7 areas?
Yeah.
And we start with the most pressing ones. And then, some that they don't score as high on, they don't need as much help with. Those are kind of like later if you're really just trying to take it to that next level.
Yeah.
But for the most part, my clients are falling between like 3 and 4 of these as their big,
Okay.
the big red flag areas.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So then my next one is our breath, breathing habits. And I loved your episode with, I'm going to forget his name.
Martin Reidhead.
Martin Reidhead. Yeah. That was a great episode. And he touched on a lot of amazing points of just how important our breath is throughout our day in optimizing our stress levels, our overall well-being, decreasing anxiety, but then also from a performance level, the more CO2 that we have in our blood, the slower our breathing becomes and our body is less stressed, we can go farther, we can run faster, we can jump higher, we can perform better. And breath also correlates very closely with sleep. So the breathing that we do during the day helps us decrease anxiety and stress if we have healthy breathing habits in place, and we know how to bring awareness to our breath throughout the day. Because again, like sleep, it's this unconscious, subconscious act that we've never really been taught how to do properly, and it's just been on autopilot.
Yeah.
And so I try to teach all of my clients how to at least bring awareness to their breath and take moments during the day to focus on deep belly breathing, rhythmic breathing. For some, this turns into more of a meditation practice. I think meditation can be scary for some people, so we just start with breathing.
And so this is during the day that you focus on this, and you find that that's then going to help you at night. It's not just focusing on breathing just before bed or in your routine before bed.
It's both. I think if you just wait until the end of the night, then it's like you're just letting the tea kettle boil all day long.
I see. Okay.
And now you're trying to push it all back down right at the very end, which sometimes we don't change things until the problem is slapping us in the face.
Yeah.
But I think true optimization, true healthy lifestyle is when you do things consistently in little chunks throughout your day. It's the same rationale as I'm not going to go eat a sugary breakfast and a loaded carbo heavy lunch with a bunch of gluten and stuff and dairy and whatnot in the middle of the day, and then at night eat all my vegetables. That doesn't make any sense. So it's the same with breath. And if we can manage our breathing throughout the day, then we're going to be less stressed and less anxious at night. So the breath work that you're going to do before bed, you may not even need it. It may just be more of a nice to have, not a need to have.
Okay.
The idea is to always make these things just little habits, little micro habits during your time.
All about building habits. So love that.
Yeah. But then at night too, obviously there's breath that can help instigate sleep better. And so if you're stressed, you're anxious, I have breathing exercises for that. And if there's some where you're just not as tired as you want to be, you can help bring yourself into a state where you feel more tired. And so for the listeners, one of the easiest ones is just rhythmic belly breathing. Yeah. Just placing your hands on your stomach and focusing on making sure that your stomach is actually pushing out as you breathe. So you get out of the chest area.
You know what? The breath is free. It's so powerful and it's free. So if you want to hack, if you want something, always start with the breath. And you can do it anytime, anywhere, and anyone can do it because it's free. So if you're not focusing on your breath, if you're not using this as a tool, it's somewhere that you need to start because it's just so accessible. Why wouldn't you? Exactly.
And based on you saying that, I actually think I'm going to be swapping the order of which I do nutrition and breathing, because nutrition is a little bit of a harder hurdle for people. And it does require more of that conscious act and a little bit of money. You have to go make the right food choices, but breathing, always free and always available to you.
We're fixing the performance sleep method here on the podcast. I love it.
Everything's an iterative process, right?
Yes,
nothing's set in stone, including your health, including your sleep. So it's all about, for me, it's I'm building this business as there's no end date to it. So it's a constant refinement process. And same thing with your health. There's no definitive end to you being optimized healthy. It's a lifetime. It's a lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. See, and the listeners, if you're hearing Kelly speak right now, you're going to understand why I wanted her on this podcast. I just love the way that she, thinks and just kind of plans and is, doing everything that she's doing. I think, enjoying the process and trusting the process and just being a part of that and figuring it all out is one of my favorite things. And it was for Kelly too. So when we went to the avocado factory, I think we both just talked for a lot longer than you need to have a lunch. So, super, super interesting person and absolutely love that you're sharing all this. So thank you.
You're welcome. We have one more.
We have one more. Okay. What is this one?
So this one, no surprise here, and it taps into a lot of these other ones, but it's just managing stress, anxiety, and toxic thoughts. So I would say one of the number one issues with people, especially those with insomnia, is what's happening between your ears. it's this internal dialogue that we have that, whether it's positive or negative, it's just stimulation.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's because of the external world coming in, and that's social media, that's email, that's, our schedules, it's loved ones, as much as we do love them. It's when we're not setting healthy boundaries with the external world. Mm-hmm. And so reframing our relationship with technology, reframing our relationship with social media. I don't know a single person who gets on Instagram and doesn't have some hint of FOMO or self-doubt, or I wish my life looked like theirs, or I should be doing this, I should be more successful, yada, 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 yada. It just gets out of control.
It does.
And if we don't, the external world's never going to stop. It's never going to quiet down. It's only going to speed up. It's only going to get louder. So it has to come from our own internal strength to put up boundaries around it and to deflect it. Mm-hmm. So I teach a lot of stress management, how to prevent toxic stress from even building up, as well as what to do once you're in that moment, because it happens. You'll find yourself totally overwhelmed and anxious. And some of it goes back to breathing. A couple other practices that I teach, something for people who have a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry. There's something called a worry journal. Yeah. And you would just get a notebook, just like, a normal notebook, and it would be dedicated to dumping all of your anxious thoughts daily or however often you need it. But don't do it an hour before bed. That way it's not fresh on your mind. But that way all those thoughts can live somewhere else, and you don't have to pick them up if you don't want to.
See, I journal every day, but I do it right before bed because it's my thing that gets me away from being on my phone. So that's why I do it just before bed. But I used to do it in the morning, but I don't know. Now it's before bed, and I don't know. It works for me, but I see the thing.
Well, I think if your journal practice right before bed was like a gratitude practice.
Okay.
Because for me, it's however you end the day is most likely how you're going to start the next one. Mm-hmm. So if you end your day thinking about all the things that went wrong, even if you're journaling it, you're getting it out of your mind, that's still fresh on your mind. And then you head into your dream state, and that's probably going to alter what you're dreaming about. Yeah. And then in the morning, it's still going to be fresh on your mind. Okay. So for me, some of my best mornings are the day after I do a gratitude meditation right before bed. And I wake up and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm amazing. Life's amazing. Everyone in my life's amazing. Everything that's happening to me is great. This day is going to be kick-ass. And that's how we want to start our day. But that's a very conscious choice for how I ended the night before.
Okay. Well, you know what? Then I'm completely in line, because what I do is I write, what did I do good that day? What could I have done a little bit better? What did I learn? And then I put my to-do list for the next day. So I guess that's kind of a gratitude journal.
Definitely.
Okay, sweet. So
I think if you had a lot of anxiety or a lot of things that you're really worried about, having a worry journal, and not everyone, has a lot of those that accumulate, but for some people that's really helpful. Yeah. So worry journal for those who have racing minds and really need somewhere else to put it. Instead of, if you sleep with a partner, instead of dumping all of your stuff onto them and then transferring the worry load into someone else. I mean, there's a healthy relationship there where you can bounce ideas off someone, but just letting it live somewhere else. And most likely you're not going to pick most of those thoughts back up. And a lot of them are probably irrational at the end of the day. And then I had what was my other one? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
That's okay. You know what? I think journaling is a huge thing for someone who has anxiety or depression. And again, it goes back to kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, of just trying to understand who you are, because a lot of those thoughts that you're having, you can control. But it takes you to kind of dive into to figure out why those thoughts are happening, what's triggering them, and that kind of stuff. So even for me, I've definitely had some anxiety, and I mean, I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of us do, going into a place of unknown. And so just putting your thoughts down in one spot can really help to sort of organize and figure out patterns of why you're, thinking the way that you are, why you might have that anxiety, etc. So journaling is super powerful, and something that I've been doing every day for quite a while now. And I swear by it. And I try to get all my clients to do it too, because I think it's just so helpful.
Yeah. So two things. part of with people who have insomnia, a lot of times from a cognitive behavioral standpoint, they've started associating their bed and the act of going to sleep with stress and with anxiety. So sometimes it's not even the anxiety or the stressors of their life or their day that's keeping them up at night. It's literally the stress of not being able to sleep and then judging themselves or worried about the next day and how tired they're going to be, which is completely counterintuitive if you think about it. Like you're just worried about how tired you're going to be. So you just stay up so you can worry more about it. Yeah, so then you'll be more tired. But part of the way of overcoming that is you reframe your relationship with your bedroom. You reframe your relationship with sleep. And so for people who have insomnia, one of the things that is heavily promoted by a lot of sleep doctors and that I do with my clients is if you don't fall asleep within 20 minutes, you need to get out of bed. You need to go somewhere else. You need to go do something else so that you over time understand that that your bed is only being used for sleep or sex. Your bed is not meant for laying there and thinking because that is a never ending activity if you let it be.
Okay. I love that. You know what? That's happened to me before where, you can't fall asleep after however long. And I'm like, should I just get up? Should I go do something? Should I go cause I hate just sitting there wasting time, right? Especially if it's been like an hour or something, I just get angry. So just get up and move yourself. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Don't do anything super stimulating.
Yeah.
My suggestion is always go fold your laundry, go do some stretching, go do some breath work, go do a yoga nidra meditation. Don't turn on all the lights.
Yeah.
Don't get on your phone. Keep the technology away still. And when you feel tired, you go back to bed and then you should be able to fall asleep. And even if you feel tired, then you get back in bed and then you're still not tired, you're going to get back up again. And you just keep doing that until your sleep debt accumulates to such a point that the next night you're going to sleep.
You fall asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a painful process to break the cycle of insomnia, but it's better to deal with, a couple days of being really, really tired versus the next 10 years of mediocrity.
Absolutely.
And you also said something earlier that I thought was really important, in that the reason that you journal before bed is because you're not on your phone and there's nothing else really to do. And I find that a lot. I found that with myself and with my clients is the typical evening routine rationale of you need to spend an hour and do other things aside from be on your phone. Well, we all have a lot going on. We're very productive people with opportunities and, with creating content and whatnot. And those jobs never end. And so it's understandable when someone is like, well, the hour before bed is still time that I could be doing something productive. And so if journaling for an hour doesn't make sense for someone, if they're not a writer, if they're not a journaler, or even journaling for 30 minutes, I suggest that they take their boring household chores that maybe they do in the morning or on the weekends and start doing them at night. So that you're still productive in your life. You're still getting things done that need to get done, but they're not stimulating whatsoever. So take that time to fold your laundry, take that time to do the dishes, to sweep the floor, instead of then spending 6 hours on the weekend, taking care of all of your chores.
Yeah. That is a really good idea. I like that.
Yeah.
Optimizing
I'm the
your
kind
day.
of person that's everything I need to be doing needs to fall into a productivity bucket of some sort. Otherwise, it's wasted time. And a lot of my clients are the same. They're all these high performers that they're not just going to read a book for the sheer sake of reading a book. That book has to mean something to them in a lot of ways. And so just finding ways of making all of your activities doubly beneficial.
Yeah. Doubly.
Is that a word?
I don't think so. That is awesome. Okay. Kelly, those were awesome. I love the performance sleep method. That was actually super informative. I want to talk a little bit about you and the things that you're doing as we wrap up here. I know one of the things is that you do unplugged adventures or wellness retreats, and I think you have some coming up in 2019. What are those, and why would someone want to go to them?
Yeah, so I actually haven't done any yet. I'm really excited. This is going to be a new endeavor for later this year. But I will be hosting 2 unplugged adventure wellness retreats back in the United States. One is going to be outside of Vail, Colorado, which is an area that I lived in for 3 years in my early 20s. And then one's going to be in the Mammoth, California area, which is in the high Sierras of Northern California, which is close to where I live, where I call home now. And I'm an outdoor athlete. That is how I love to live my life. I do trail running. I do rock climbing. I'm training for some bigger mountaineering goals. And when I first started getting into health coaching and sleep coaching and really thinking about sleep, I asked myself, okay, well, when were the best times that I've slept in my life? And the best times were when I was camping. Absolutely. For like a week or 2 on end. And the reason for that is because you start reducing all of these triggers of stimulation, technology, TV, YouTube, just lights in general, the modern world, and you start falling asleep earlier, you sleep deeper, you begin living in harmony with the sun and the moon. And I've just felt my strongest. I felt healthy during those times. Unfortunately, we all can't just go live in tents and camp all day, every day. Yeah. So these retreats are going to be designed to help people find that balance again and understand what it's like to live in harmony with the natural rhythms of the earth, while then also doing stuff during the day that is physically demanding, but enjoyable, so doing some more outdoor excursions, like going rock climbing, stand-up paddleboarding, hiking. They're going to get in the sun. They're going to move their body. So we're taking care of a lot of the areas that help promote deep, restful sleep. Mm-hmm. And then also bringing in a wellness component to it. So doing breathwork workshops, daily yoga, nourishing our bodies with really great food, and then focusing on forging relationships with others. And the idea, and I'm hoping that this doesn't totally freak people out, is that it will be a cell phone free environment for 4 days. Nice. So you will have to turn in your phone and your laptop. Ideally, don't even bring your laptop, but you'll turn them in. We will have an on-site photographer so that you will have all the Instagram worthy moments captured for you. Smart. And they'll be better than you'll ever have on your phone anyway. And if there's an emergency, all the people in your life will know how to get in touch with the retreat leaders. Awesome. And maybe there's like 30 minutes a day where you can plug back in. I haven't decided yet.
No, don't do that. This sounds like my perfect heaven. I swear that's amazing. Is there links to sign up for this yet? Can I put those in the notes, or you don't have the links just yet?
Not yet, but I can have links for you by the time the show goes live.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah. You're a go-getter. You're quick. Or how about this? Where can people find you on the internet so that when they do come out, when you start kind of promoting it, they can just get it there? Where do we get you on the interwebs?
Yeah. So my website, which is sleepwithkelly.com, which will, right now there's information up, but it'll be a full-fledged website in about 6 weeks from now. Okay. And then on Instagram, which is Sleep with Kelly. And those are my 2 spots right now.
Did it ever occur to you that your name, Sleep with Kelly, sounds a little provocative?
I did. And just like the conscious choice to become a sleep coach, it was a conscious choice to make that my URL and my branding. And one of the reasons is, sleep can be a very boring topic. Mm-hmm. It can really put you to sleep. It can be too wrapped up in the science of it. Yeah. And when it comes to the practicality of us really improving our sleep, I think people are going to want to make it more fun, make it more enjoyable, bring a little cheeky humor to it. Mm-hmm. My tagline is, when you sleep with Kelly, you actually get the sleep you need. Versus, maybe you enter into a relationship and all of a sudden your sleep goes haywire.
I love it.
So it's the one relationship that'll benefit your sleep.
That's amazing. Okay, so check her out on Instagram. You can we just went live on Instagram if you're listening to the podcast too. Maybe she'll start going live more often. Who knows? I guess we'll see. Only time will tell. I have one final question for you, and this is a question that I ask all the guests that come on Health Simple Radio. I don't know if I think I would have asked them in the other episodes that you've listened to. So here goes. You've been on a health journey now for I'm not sure how many years, but quite a long time. You're 29, so we'll say 29 years. If you were to forget everything that you've learned along this journey and you were to start all over again, okay, what would be the one piece of advice or the one piece of knowledge that you'd want to tell yourself who's just starting out? And it doesn't have to be about sleep. It could be about anything to do with just health in general.
Of course. I would have to say that it's not so much one piece of tangible knowledge, but it's the understanding that your situation is not permanent or your fault either. So for me, I got really frustrated in the beginning of my health journey because it just seemed like things were going to be so difficult to change, and that becoming really healthy or becoming my most optimal self was this big rock that you had to push up the hill, and I had to make big lifestyle changes right away, otherwise it wasn't going to work out, and that there was just too much information out there. So once I realized that health is a journey and that it's a lifestyle, it took the pressure off and it turned me more into a curious person. So now I'm not looking for the silver bullet. I'm not looking for the one size fits all approach. I'm looking for just what feels right and good at the stage that I'm at right now. So I guess what I would want is that insatiable curiosity still to go and just find and experiment and understand that however I feel right now doesn't need to be the way I feel tomorrow. And it certainly doesn't need to be the way I feel in a year.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Kelly, thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm glad you figured out the Wi-Fi situation so that we could actually make this happen. That's the struggles of Bali, I guess. But this was super informative. It was a lot of fun. And I know this was your first podcast, but you did an absolutely phenomenal job. Thank you for joining me. And for all the listeners, check her out on Sleep with Kelly on Instagram or her website. And maybe we'll all meet up at one of her retreats sometime because it sounds absolutely phenomenal. But again, Kelly, thank you so much.